Hey, welcome to Real People, Real Estate. I'm Lindsay, your host, and we sit down with real people right here in Western Massachusetts who are doing awesome things in real estate. Today, I am here with a really special guest, my dad, Todd Barron. I'm going to read your bio first, Dad, if you can handle it, and then we'll dive into our interview here. So, while officially retired, Todd will always be the heart of Applied Mortgage. A Pioneer Valley native, Todd returned to Western Massachusetts after college with his wife, my mom, Andrea, to raise a family and build a successful career in real estate and mortgage lending. He co-founded a real estate office in the 80s and then moved into mortgages, quickly becoming one of the region's most trusted loan originators and eventually founding the Applied Mortgage team. After decades of helping thousands of families become homeowners, my dad, it's weird for me to say Todd, passed the torch to me, and the rest is history. So these days, Dad, now that you're mostly retired, at least from mortgages, you're doing a lot of other stuff. So you're enjoying your farm and collecting some cars, restoring old houses, and staying involved in a lot of community organizations. I think even more involved, if that's even possible, than you were when you were working. So still a big community advocate. Before we dive in, I want to just do some icebreakers that are kind of fun to loosen up on the questions, and then we'll go into some more in-depth questions. What I really wanted to talk to you about today is flipping houses, because that's something you've been doing in retirement that's really cool. Is that all right with you?
Sure.
Better be, because that's the plan. So what do you want me to call you today? Any nicknames?
Mr. Barron.
Mr. Barron. Sir, understood.
No, call me anything you want.
Sounds good.
Dad is fine.
Perfect. If your best friend was sitting right next to you today and described you in 3 words, what words would that person say?
Focused, committed, caring.
Awesome. Focused, committed, caring. You couldn't have done 3 C words, Dad. You're usually on that alliteration. What is something that you've been really proud of professionally lately?
Well, I'm very proud that you have continued the Applied Mortgage legacy.
Thank you. Awesome. What's the earliest memory that you have that's tied to real estate or the idea of owning a home?
I think the earliest time is back in 1963. My mother, who had she had bought the family home from my dad when my parents were divorced. She found a piece of land and designed a home, hired a general contractor, and built a single-family home for us in Pelham.
That's awesome.
And that was a very formative experience for her and my brothers and me.
Yeah. Well, that fits too, because building a first home, and we're going to talk a little bit about renovating properties here in a second. So let's dive in. Thanks for sharing those. So you have flipped several homes over the last few years. What first drew you to decide that you wanted to restore some houses?
While I was running the mortgage company, periodically people would come to me and say, look, we haven't been able to sell our house. We've located another house. We'd like to be able to purchase that. And yet we aren't in a position yet, because we haven't sold our present home, to be able to move on. So there were occasions over the past 40 years, much earlier than the present time, when I'm actually involved more directly with purchasing and renovating. There were those occasions where I purchased those houses and did some work on them and then returned them to the market so that the original owners could move on and buy something else. The purpose of those purchases was not to flip and make a lot of money. It was to facilitate the real estate process so that the people who are looking to move on were able to do that.
Yeah.
Now, we didn't have unlimited means. I'm sorry?
Well, it's interesting because you solved a challenge. There's bigger companies now that are doing that very same thing in this market, because it's really hard for people to buy with a contingency to have to sell. So that was sort of an early, you may have pioneered that business model for some of these bigger places.
If I did, it was inadvertent. It wasn't planned. But it worked well, and the people were grateful, and it helped build our community reputation as an organization that was really dedicated to helping people achieve their home ownership dreams.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So those were some of the early flips. So a lot of people...
And just to clarify, and I'm sorry to interrupt you, but I don't see these as flips. I don't like the word flipping because it suggests that the purpose, and I realize that this is not you putting this is what the general media and cultural context refers to as this process of buying and reselling. They call it flipping. The implication is when you flip as a developer, as a general contractor, you are attempting to make as much money as you can in the shortest amount of time, and you're not concerned about the quality of the work that you do to renovate the house. That's not the way we approach it. Our company, CT&A Construction, is dedicated to finding homes that need improvement, and we do exceptional top-level improvement, so we make a home better, a better place for people to live. And many of the projects we've done, and what are we talking about, 6 houses in the last 5 years. Not a huge volume because we're very small, it's just 2 of us, and we hire subcontractors. But the work that we've done has always been to bring a house back into the housing market that is as affordable as possible and has the highest quality renovations and has its issues taken care of.
Yeah, you're restoring homes rather
Yes,
than...
it's responsible restoration.
Yeah, yeah.
And reintroduction into the housing, not market so much, but into the housing group.
Yeah.
A good home.
Well, it's amazing when you drive through the community and you see some of the houses that have so much deferred maintenance, and people sometimes get to the point where they're going to sell, especially if it's an inherited property, and the beneficiaries don't have the funds to fix up the house and actually get it ready and attainable to, you know, somebody else who wants to buy it and move in right away. So it's an important piece of the housing market. So a lot of people have questions now because flipping is a buzzword, right? It's a buzzword. It's like Airbnbs and flipping houses, and everybody watches HGTV and they want to do it too. So in this market with low inventory, high demand for houses, you know, houses tend to be for sale for higher amounts. How do you find the houses that are priced in such a way that you can make some sort of a profit or even break even if that's what's really happening?
It's difficult, and it requires an understanding not just of, as best possible, what the current market conditions are, but also what the costs are for doing the improvements that the houses are going to need. Give you an example. We bought a house in Southampton, and turned out it needed a new septic system. We knew that going in. We were not certain whether, when we made our offer, whether the seller would put the new septic system in. Turns out they didn't want to do that. And that was both the advantage that we had going in as cash buyers, and also a key factor to determine the value of the house. We knew we were going to have to spend $25,000 to $50,000, we weren't sure exactly, on a new septic system. We factored that in. We made it clear to the seller that this is what we were doing as we negotiated. So we bought that house that needed substantial repairs. It would not have been a house that would have been easy to finance. So the first key was the cash position. The second was understanding the work we wanted to do, plus this additional work of the septic system. And then we were very fortunate because we worked with and we continue to work with this particular realtor who's really adept at finding houses that are good houses fundamentally, but have key issues and are not necessarily attainable to people who are otherwise seeking financing.
Yeah. Can we talk about that a little bit too? Well, I have 2 questions. Let's actually back up for 1 second before the financing, because oftentimes when people decide they maybe want to flip houses, restore houses, either they have the money or the means to do it, or they have the skills to actually do it. Sometimes they don't have both. So in either your own experience or just folks that you know who have gotten into restoring properties, what does that partnership look like?
Well, we've been very fortunate. My business partner is a general contractor who is not only skilled at seeing the big picture of a renovation in terms of cost projections, he also has great contacts in the community, and we use subcontractors to do most of our work.
Yeah.
And specifically that means, for instance, we used a licensed electrician to install a new electric system if it needs
Right.
it, or to do repairs.
Roofing, plumbing, the septic system you
Exactly,
mentioned. So having that
exactly.
team.
So the partnership is key. It's difficult to be just one or the other. In other words, I would not advise people to go into this if they have the means but don't have any contacts. Develop the contacts. Develop the contacts even before you start the process. And that's relatively easy to do. There are all kinds of online services to do it, but the best way we found was to work with people who are already in the industry, who associate themselves with these subcontractors on a regular basis. Other general contractors, realtors, attorneys, builders who use subcontractors. You do the phone calling game, meet these people,
Yeah.
interview them,
Yeah.
get comfortable with a group, a solid group of contractors,
Yeah.
subcontractors.
Do the legwork, I think.
And do this, and do the same thing with the financial question. It isn't that you need to have the cash to do the complete renovation. The beauty is if you're able to buy the houses at a reasonable cost for cash, you can go to a lender, and this is another piece, and interview lenders even before you start this renovation process. Find a lender who's willing to work with you and who's willing to use the current value of the house as a basis for funding the renovation money. We've had some relatively large projects that we have been able to secure financing for all the renovation, not the home purchase, because we didn't want to go into the negotiation requiring financing. We were able to use our own assets to purchase, then we go to the bank and leverage the value of the house, which has no debt on it.
Yep.
We get a construction renovation loan, sometimes a line of credit, and we use that. So get the funding set up as well. Going back to the partnership question, partnerships are not always workable. It's very difficult to find people that share the same values and share the same end goals.
Right.
Yes. And so
Probably kind of like dating. You're trying to find a good partner that you can work on a business with.
That's right. Yeah, exactly. So we've, in terms of how it worked with me, I knew my business partner for years because our sons played baseball together, and this gentleman had coached your brother for a number of years in baseball, and I knew about him and his family and his work around town, so it worked out well. And
So
he came to
networking.
me, ironically.
Yeah. Networking is huge in all of this and comes back to the being familiar with the local community, because you want to find the right partner, you want to then establish the right team as far as who's going to physically do the work, and you want to establish, it sounds like, the right team as far as how you're going to finance it.
And also establish early what your overall objectives are.
Yeah.
We decided early that we were going to keep this, we being the two of us in our business, we decided we would keep this on a relatively small scale. Now, that changes over time. That was our initial plan. 5 years later, we're now looking at doing much bigger project, a development of an actual 40 to 50 unit subdivision, single family subdivision. But it's a process, right?
Yeah.
And the beauty is the basic structure, all that I've talked about, contacts, subcontractors, financing, having a plan, having an overall objective that people, that is the same whether it's a single house you're doing or a big project.
Yeah. Well, you talked about being focused, and I think that people sometimes see the HGTV show and they see these house flippers and they're making millions of dollars, so it seems, and how to get from point A to point B sometimes falls through the cracks. So having that slow scalability is definitely important. I'm curious, you've decided to restore houses and sell them. Have you ever thought about restoring houses and then keeping them as rentals?
When you are very much younger than you are now, your mother and I did own several rental properties. We bought them, they needed a little bit of work, we cleaned them up. We always tried to make them better places for people. We were land ladies and landlords for a time, and we found that it was a difficult business to operate at the same time we were running the mortgage company. It had to do with focus. So being owners of residential real estate understandably required great focus and took our focus somewhat off the business at times. I didn't like that.
Sure.
So we sold the rental real estate. We still have 2 commercial rentals. As you know, you are in one of them. And a commercial rental is very different than a residential. And we're not on to commercial rentals
That'll be
today.
another topic. I'm
Yes.
taking notes here because, yeah, we are, for the record, talking about restoring residential properties.
Right.
But commercial is a whole other avenue. Can you share one of your, I'm sure every house has a story to it. I mean, you're seeing these houses that some of them have tremendous deferred maintenance, and you're bringing it back to life. Of, the last 40 years, what's your favorite restoration?
I was going to say it's the one we just completed and which is going to sell
Knock on
on
wood.
June 20th. However, I'm going to go back to a house that we did in Hatfield, and we started that 2.5 years ago while we were still finishing up a house in Southampton. And the house in Hatfield was a house that was built in 1835. It was a very old farmhouse that had a very narrow footprint. It was maybe 20 feet by 30, the base footprint for the first floor. And it was shaped in a T, so it had a T extension that was 15 feet wide and about 20 feet long. So it was this odd T, and there was no second floor on that, the
Expansion.
the extension, just a kitchen and some back rooms that were in total disrepair, roof leaking, etc. A lot of rot around the entire exterior. The second floor in the main part of the house, which again was really small, was really curious. I walked up the stairs, which by the way were so narrow I almost had to turn sideways prior to our renovation. And I got to the top of the stairwell, and there was a little bedroom to my left, a little bedroom to my right, but I couldn't stand up in the house. I was hitting the top of the eave, and I thought, gosh, they must have crawled up here to sleep, right?
Yeah.
And then crawled back down.
Well, they were farming, right? So Hatfield.
They were
so
farmers.
They were probably just sleeping. Yeah.
The other thing that was cool about it had a barn that was 36 deep and about 75 wide, and that was falling apart, literally. So we looked at this thing, and my business partner and I, and we weren't sure about the septic system. And of course it was being sold as is. So we came to an agreement on price. It's public record. We paid $135,000, I think. We wound up putting close to $600,000 into that property.
Wow.
And we sold it and did well. And what we did is we essentially tore down the main house. We, on the same T, but we widened it out. We built a 2,400 square foot farmhouse. And everything was brand new except some of the foundation, which we were able to save, and we restored all that. We went into the barn and we rebuilt the entire interior superstructure. There was an onion bin that ran the entire length of the barn, and it was collapsing almost like a boat.
Wow.
Like this. It was terrible. We tore all that out. We rebuilt the entire interior, new support beams, everything. Re-sided the exterior of the barn, including taking down the whole front wall and rebuilding it. New windows, new garage doors, etc. Concrete floor. Beautiful, beautiful barn. Got an offer from someone who said, well, I'm going to put a business in the barn. You've done such a beautiful job.
Wow, that's awesome.
So she had a home inspection done. I know this is long-winded, but she had a home inspection done and said, oh, I can't use the barn. I'm going to tear it down.
Oh,
I said, you're
all
going to
that.
tear the barn down? That's crazy. I didn't quite use that word. So she re-offered for a slightly lower price thinking she'd take the barn down. She hasn't taken it down. She's using it.
Well, that's
so
perfect.
it worked out beautiful. And the house is gorgeous.
It is.
On a beautiful setting surrounded by 100 acres of
Yeah.
conservation land.
And because I know you and I saw the house and I know it, I mean, how cool to see that property go from
it's-
being in such disrepair to now being another Hatfield staple when you drive by and, you know, you see how beautiful it is against
Yeah,
the scenery.
it's a great feeling.
That's awesome. When you're going into a house and a project like this and you're kind of working all the numbers before you make an offer, like that one, for example, you had that for, I think it was 2 years almost,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, it took us about a year and a half to do it right.
I'm
yeah.
remembering the pictures of the girls in front of the house as it was
Yes.
progressing. So how do you factor in the maintenance cost while you're working? I mean, do you try to have a definitive idea of how long it's going to take you to finish the project? Or is that sometimes just a risk because you're going to have taxes, insurance, lawn mowing, right?
Yeah, I call them opportunity costs.
Okay.
And what I try to do is project, first of all, the amount of money we put into the place. If we had a modest return on that same amount of cash for a year or a year and a half, I usually project out 12 to 14 months. Mm-hmm. Sometimes the projects take less, sometimes take a little longer. But 12 to 14 months, if there were a modest return on that cash,
If it was in the market, you're saying?
or even in
Invested.
money markets,
Okay.
what would that be
Sure.
worth at the end of 12 to 14 months? Then I do the same thing on whatever carrying costs we think we're going to have that we're going to have to finance. So I count the interest cost starting from the first time we take financing, if we do,
Yep.
right through to the end. And that isn't a fixed cost because
Right.
you draw more and more and more on these lines of credit to complete the work, so
Right.
the interest cost goes up. But it's not prohibitive. It's become a little more expensive because of the higher rates, but it's still manageable. So you project that out, you project what the utilities are going to be. Often the utilities are not as much as you think because the heating system's torn out, there isn't electrical,
Right.
we're running off a
You don't
generator.
even have utilities there for a while.
Yeah,
Sure.
exactly. And taxes are very easy to project out. Insurance is a key piece, and it's expensive when you have a vacant home, especially a vacant home that's under construction, because you get into builder's liability and all that sort of thing.
Yeah.
So be careful of that. So we just add up all those numbers, then we look at what we want to do as far as the project goes. And of course, those numbers are included in calculation of the interest cost over time. We come up with a projection and we look at the market and we know it's a gamble.
Yeah. Well, it's all how you're leveraging your money.
And also, what's the market going to look like in
Right.
a year? We don't know.
Right.
I mean, things have changed so quickly, especially
Right.
this most recent 6 months.
Yeah.
Those are factors that we cannot project.
Right. Right. What's been your biggest, last question I have, and then we'll wrap up. What's been your biggest unknown cost or unexpected cost that's come up on one of these projects? Has there been anything that's just been completely blown it out of the water?
I would say that what makes it more expensive than anything is that we tend to do more than we absolutely need to do.
Yeah. You turn
And-
it into a brand new, beautiful home.
Yes, so we have this intense drive to be proud of what we do and to also not have to worry about the people
Homeowners
coming
after.
back to us and say, hey, you did a shoddy job over
Yeah.
here. So what that means is that the projections are sometimes not as accurate ultimately as
Sure.
we would hope.
So
But
it's
there's
more
always
like an
room.
extra 500 here, 1,000 there, 10,000 there.
For instance, the last one we did, the roof was 10 years old, but we didn't like the way it looked, so we put a new roof on. So that new roof, new siding, new windows, we could have saved some of the existing windows. We could have saved the siding potentially and repainted, but it just wasn't the thing to do.
Yeah. Yeah.
But that decision was made after we purchased it, you
Right.
see. That wasn't in our initial projection.
Right.
Landscaping.
Right.
Never underestimate landscaping.
Yeah.
We put new driveways in. We stripped the sod because it was so terrible.
Yeah. Yeah.
These
right.
things come up.
Little costs. So if you could leave us with one last piece of advice when it comes to restoring houses, what would that be? Let's say you're talking to a first-time person that's thinking about it. They want to get into it.
Do the research, create a plan, coming to an understanding about what your final objectives are in terms of profit versus quality. There's a balance. And develop relationships with subs, develop relationships with banks, develop relationships with realtors. I have always worked with one realtor at a time. I think that's important. That relationship is as critical as any. Mm-hmm. And stay focused and go for it.
I was waiting for the positive, the go for it, the just do it.
Yeah.
Awesome. So we're going to wrap up with some rapid fire questions here, about 4 or 5 of them. And thank you for all of your insights. I personally am really interested in how you're restoring properties. So some of these were just my own personal questions.
I had a hunch.
Yep. So this will be in my next, how much older are you than I am? 35 years?
Yes.
I've got a little bit of time to figure it out. So coffee or cocktails while you're looking at these houses?
Coffee.
What is one local business or organization that you like to support right now?
Well, right now it's a nonprofit, and I happen to be the president of it, so I'm going to pitch it. Northampton Neighbors. Our
Awesome.
mission is to enable elderly people to continue to live independently and connected with the community, live joyful, meaningful lives as we all age and engage in place.
Hey, let's pitch the Doozy Doo Parade too. When is that?
Doozy Doo Parade is September 20th, which is a Saturday. It's at 11 o'clock, downtown Northampton. It's free.
Awesome.
There'll be at least, we hope, 300 to 400 participants and tons of people in the crowds, and it's become the Doozy Doo Day. So there are going to be activities downtown for people to encourage them to stay downtown and keep it vibrant on September 20th in downtown Northampton.
And the kids have loved it, so highly suggest checking
and
out.
it is a Northampton Neighbors friendly and a fundraiser.
Yes, a
The
friendly.
Doozy Doo. Yes, a friendly.
Friendly.
You see, it builds
Friend-raising.
connections,
Yes,
which is
awesome.
key.
I like that. Let's have a friendly.
I hope we are.
So, what's your favorite room in a house?
Favorite room in the house is, in our house, it's our front room, which is a sort of a study, small living room.
It's where the girls like to go when they're supposed to be being quiet, but instead
Right,
they go
instead
into
they
the
jump
front
on the
room and
couches.
they
Yeah.
pull everything apart. Yeah. Okay, and then lastly, one sentence or advice for somebody who's just entering the housing market. Brand new, first-time home buyer.
Go for it and proceed with education.
Awesome. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
This is really fun. And thanks everybody for listening. That's a wrap for this episode of Real People, Real Estate, where we meet with people right here in Western Massachusetts who are doing awesome things in real estate. If you'd like to be on this show, check out the link in our bio. I'd love to have you on here. And tune in every Tuesday. We'll see you in 2 weeks.